Hello, I'm here for the role model interview, but before that, let me thank DEPwD, ISLRTC, and ISH for this collaboration on role model interview. This is the fourth role model interview. You will have to wait a bit to know who it is. This individual is from a deaf family. He briefly attended a deaf school that practiced oralism before moving to a hearing school. He then completed B.Ed HI, M.Ed HI, M.A. from the UK and is now pursuing PhD. I'll share the topic in a while. Surprisingly, this individual was working in railways, a good government job, but quit the job to work for bringing changes in the deaf community. Amazing. The individual's family condemned him for leaving the government job, but he had his reasons. Currently, this individual has many roles. At SignX, a company that offers training and expert solutions on sign language and the deaf community. Acting President of India Deaf Society IDS, a Mumbai-based deaf association. President of National Deaf Association, All India Federation of the Deaf, Vice President of ISLIA, and consultant of Indian Sign Language Teachers Association. So many roles. He has also taught English at Ishara Foundation. Long back, this individual was a computer teacher. Did this person aspire to become a teacher? No, an accident led to changing paths. This incident made this individual an accidental teacher. Surprising, right? We'll talk about it. Now that you know this individual has many roles, do you want to know who it is? It is Mr. Sunil Sahasrabudhe. Thank you. Namaskar. Hello. Happy to have Sunil here, a role model for the entire country. We've been waiting and now we are happy you are here. We finally have the opportunity to interview you and everyone wants to know more about you. Thank you for inviting me. Can you briefly share your background? You have already given my background. Nothing has been missed, but I will still give you a brief. I am 50 years old. Time goes fast, you're already 50. 50 is an important age. I want to share that I am 50 as it reflects on 50 years of experience which benefited me a lot. Looking back at 25, I knew nothing, but at 50, it's different. In 25 years of various roles, I learned a lot, which is why 50 is significant. You're 50 now. But going back, tell us about your birth and your deaf younger brother Sujit. After you were born and as a kid, when did you realize that your parents were deaf? Did your parents regret that both of their children, Sunil and Sujit, were born deaf? How did you feel in the society? I will try to explain my parents' perspective, but I don't agree to it. My perspective differs from my parents' point of view. My deaf parents married and I was their firstborn. It was clear I was deaf, as when my grandmother banged vessels, I didn't respond. My parents were worried I was deaf. Though it was different as my father felt sad, while my mother accepted it. When my brother was born, it was clear he was deaf too. By then, my parents had accepted it. But it did leave an impact. At that time, society was unaware and there was no counseling, guidance or support available. Being deaf was considered negative. And that is why my father started worrying as he faced a lot of failures growing up as there was no proper education. My mother had slightly better education. Thinking his children will face the same hardships, he was worried. That was his perspective. For me, it was different. Seeing my parents communicate in sign language, I learned and enjoyed a lot. Signing with my deaf brother brought me a sense of positivity. I haven't seen their sufferings and disappointments and I didn't understand. Later, they shared their struggles and the reason they were worried about me being deaf. I thought differently. In fact, I was happy that my parents were deaf. But the society pitied us, saying, "Oh, your parents are deaf, your brother also, deaf family, sad." I often wondered why they pitied us. Back then, there was very little awareness, but with education, I realized that deaf with hearing parents faced even greater challenges. In fact, I felt that we had more advantages, and those deaf individuals should be sympathized with. Hearing people felt that if parents and siblings were hearing and there was only one deaf in the family, it is fine. In reality, it is better when the entire family is deaf. I understood that society has different perspectives and no clear understanding of the deaf community. I see that you have a positive perspective. But have you ever felt a loss of confidence, stress, or heartbreak when your relatives, neighbor, or society in general showed sympathy towards you? Or you just ignore these? How do you experience this? I had varied experiences. Most of them were of sympathy and in support of the deaf. I had very few negative experiences. Can you explain that? By a little meant a mocking laugh or gesture showing I'm deaf, or while playing keep names for me which I didn't understand. All my friends were hearing. They would say something which when I lip read was not my name, Sunil. It looked different. Later, when I realized that they were making fun of me, I felt bad. But that was later. However, I remember while growing up, I was never sad or worried. While I looked at my parents, my mother always radiated positivity and would always say there was no problem in being deaf. Her positivity gave me strength to move forward, ignoring negativity and focusing on the bright side. So I don't remember the societal sufferings that I faced, but I remember the good things. How do you feel about your younger brother being deaf? In fact, I'm very happy. I could play and chat more with him. But he was sent to the hostel at the age of 4. When he was 4 years old, I was 7. From the age of 4 to around 19 to 20, we were apart for about 15 years because he was in the hostel. Every 6 months when he came home for a month vacation, we would play and have fun, but then he would return. We bonded more when we grew up and he returned home after completing his schooling. Having a deaf brother was enjoyable. If you ask me about having a hearing sibling, I'm not sure how it would have been, but this was definitely better. Wonderful. So you see, it is important that when later in life you have your deaf family, you may have a deaf or a hearing kid, but if you have a deaf child and as parents you begin to worry, the child will also start to worry about the future. What's important is that at least one parent maintains a positive approach as it will have a positive influence on the growing child. Agreed? Absolutely. Although my father wasn't strong as he had his own experiences, which is why he felt worried, stressed and sad. However, he encouraged me a lot and didn't pass on any negativity to me, though he was himself sad. But my mom was the opposite. She had a very positive approach and between the two I chose to follow my mother. My brother did the same. Understanding the emotional stress of being deaf and the hardships were beneficial to me. As you were growing up, how did you overcome the barriers you faced, or did you seek help to navigate the challenges? In education, I was in a deaf school for 2 years and then I was put in a hearing school. Growing up in a hearing school, I didn't learn anything. For me, school was a place for enjoyment and I learned nothing there. When I returned home from school, I would communicate with my parents. Although they were not highly educated, they taught me essential life skills. My grandparents too taught me, and I also had a few tuitions. Looking back, I realized I enjoyed reading, which helped me progress. I resolved my challenges by reading and through self-help. Self-help is important. However, I wouldn't advise self-help for everyone as self-help is an important skill. It would be better if the deaf learn the concept of self-help. In my experience, understanding self-help makes it easier to navigate challenges at school, college, and in life overall. Amazing. You said that you were enrolled into a deaf school for 2 years and then put in a hearing school. But your brother was enrolled in a deaf school throughout. Why? Good question. As I mentioned, when my parents learned both their children were deaf, they didn't want us to face the same challenges they did with the unhelpful deaf schools. That's when they decided to put me in a hearing school. At that time, my brother was still a baby and I was 3. When they enrolled me in a hearing school, the teacher, after a week to 10 days of trial, said they couldn't keep a deaf child in a hearing school. As being deaf, I was not able to understand the hearing teacher. But even during those days, they gave me a pocket hearing aid for early intervention. In reality, sitting in school with the other children, I didn't understand a word. So the teacher asked my parents to shift me to a deaf school. My parents were heartbroken, fearing that by sending me to a deaf school, I would face the same challenges they had. That was their perspective, but I had benefited. I'll explain how. For about 2 years, I was admitted to a deaf school where I was very comfortable as everyone there was deaf. It was an oral school, so we had to follow. But this helped me grow and understand that at home I was signing with my parents, talking to my grandparents, hearing school is different, and that deaf school is different, hearing and deaf world are different. I had learnt this early in life. After 2 years, I had to leave the deaf school because of issues like its distance, the teachers, and other reasons. I was then put in a hearing school, and this school accepted me, and I grew up there. I had learned and become aware, which was important because without that awareness, I would have felt lost. Being aware made me better. Earlier, Sunil, after completing his education, was excited in teaching. His first job as a teacher was at AYJNISHD as a computer teacher, thereafter Nishara, then linguistics at IGNOU. Everyone knows him as a teacher. You wanted to be a teacher always, right? You're right, all know me as a teacher, but actually I didn't want to be a teacher. You mentioned earlier that I was an accidental teacher. I'll explain. I coined the term accidental teacher from the movie The Accidental Prime Minister, which is based on the book about the life of former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Everyone knew Dr. Singh was an expert economist and the finance minister. Despite not being suited to the role due to politics, he became the prime minister. That's why he was called the accidental prime minister, because he never intended to become one. Similarly, I didn't intend to become a teacher. If you ask me if I want a teacher's job, I would flatly refuse, as I never wanted to be a teacher. My father always told me, "You are educated, you completed your graduation, your English is good, many deaf are suffering." He said this from his own experience of failures. He would say, "You are one of the best, why don't you teach the deaf?" And I would always refuse. I had different dreams. You know, like in cricket, there's always a debate about who should bowl first or who should bowl the last. When I couldn't reach a consensus, they draw names on chits or have someone show a number on their backs to decide the sequence, which often disappoints the person whose names come last. In the same way, I never intended to become a teacher, but then I received a job offer as one. I too was disappointed on taking up the job of a teacher. That's why I started teaching and became an accidental teacher. Accepting this, I started teaching computer to the deaf, who loved my teaching. I was a little surprised. When I went back home and told my father that the deaf miss me and want me to teach them, he replied that I had always told you should become a teacher. I reluctantly accepted, but it's different now. Earlier, I always refused to become a teacher, but the deaf community needs good teachers. I was fortunate to have teaching skills and being chosen as a teacher. I decided to continue, and that's what I'm doing. It's fortunate that you became an accidental teacher and brought about changes. Amazing. I have seen you as a teacher, but I think you also had a job in the railways earlier. Are you still working there? No. That was a long time back. The computer teacher job was contractual and not permanent. Everyone told me to apply for government jobs as my family was facing financial hardships, which was true. That's why I applied for a government job, as everyone insisted on its lifetime security. I got selected for a job in the railways, Central Railway. I joined after my selection. However, before that, for around a year and a half, I was working as a teacher and I'd gotten used to it. I was missing it. The railway job paid well, and I had to work because my parents faced many financial challenges during my upbringing, even for basic needs. But I wasn't happy. I wanted to go back and work as a teacher. Everyone asked me if I was mad. I knew they were right, but there were no permanent jobs in the private sector. I decided to pursue further studies alongside it. 6 months after joining the railways, I got married, and that is when I started doing B.Ed. I thank Lata Nayak, principal of a school, for encouraging me on recognizing my skills as a teacher and supporting my B.Ed HI education. It was a 3-year correspondence course where I could study while working. By then, I was clear that I wasn't happy in the railways jobs. My senior always told me that I was a smart and intelligent deaf individual. But whenever I asked about changing my job, my senior would discourage me, stating that there would be promotions in railways. I asked him, if I left and someone else replaced me, how would the railways react? Would they even miss me? Railways wouldn't be bothered, as they keep hiring hearing people. Deaf community needs teachers. I will be surely missed if I don't do it. While the deaf community needed me, the railways did not. Also, that was not what I liked. It was enough for me, as I did not want that kind of lifetime experience. I joined railways at the age of 26. I wouldn't have been able to continue there for 25 years till the age of 60. It was better that I shift and do some good work. While working, I studied, and on completion of B.Ed, I left the railway job to teach English at an NGO called Ishara Foundation, advancing in the teaching field. I was in the government job for 5 years. I understand, but I don't think I could have done it. How did your family and relatives react? Were they upset or supportive of your decision to leave such a well-paying railway job? Truly, you are right. My relatives, knowing the struggles my family faced growing up, did not support my decision. They told me that railway jobs gives lifetime security, which was needed for my deaf parents and my family's stability, and I should continue. When I quit, they told me I was mad. They weren't wrong, as everyone wants lifetime security, pension, etc. But here I had taken a completely opposite decision, so my family did talk negatively about it. I didn't leave only on my instincts. I introspected my skills as a teacher. What if a school rejects me? Will I get another job? I believed and I had trust in myself. I know I am a good teacher. If you ask me about doing film direction or editing, I doubt. But as a teacher, I was confident and I was sure that I would get jobs as I had the skill. When I introspected, I knew I had the skill. Others told me being a teacher is not easy. I told them I knew what I was doing. My wife supported me and accepted. When I quit the railway job, she applied for government jobs and got one. When I quit, my family warned that I would regret the decision in the future and will not be able to go back to the railways. Till date, I haven't regretted. I'm happy and doing well. Non-governmental private jobs were challenging as there were no financial stability. But I was a skilled teacher and I went on. See, it's important to have both motivation and skill. With these two, money will definitely follow. For example, see Sunil, he introspected, had the confidence, accepted the challenges and moved ahead. Amazing, wow. It was positive because my family supported. Initially, they did call me mad, but eventually they supported my decision. But knowing oneself is the most important thing. If you doubt your skills, it will lead to failure. I had no doubt about myself. You completed your BCom, secured a railway job, then pursued B.Ed HI, went to UK for MA, completed M.Ed HI, and are now doing your PhD. Can you explain your line of education? Like I said earlier, Lata saw a teacher in me. In order to be employed as a teacher, B.Ed HI is necessary. Through scholarship, I completed my B.Ed HI, entered the teaching field, and I quit the railways. When I was teaching English at Ishara Foundation, there was a collaboration between UK and India, and my scholarship was available. I, along with many, applied. I got selected for MA by research. Truly, research helped me understand and become aware. After 2 years of study, I got my MA research degree. It is clear that after MA, the next is PhD. When I was working at IGNOU, I was teaching 30 to 40 deaf students undergoing BAASLS. I worked there for about a year. Those students wanted to pursue BEdHI and wanted to become a deaf teacher. When I told them they needed certification to become deaf teachers, they said they wanted a deaf teacher to teach them. They wanted me to teach them, and I thought of giving it a try. At that time, I learned that a BEdHI graduate can't teach at the same level. In order to teach BEdHI, one needs to be higher and have MEdHI degree, but I hadn't planned and neither did I want to study MEdHI. Completing BEdHI was enough as I disagreed with the oral method. I believed in bilingual education. I didn't want to pursue MEd due to the conflict. But if the deaf students wanted me to teach them, I had to complete my MEd. I postponed my plans to pursue PhD and applied for MEdHI through Mumbai University. I juggled between jobs and studied. I completed my MEdHI and during the COVID-19 pandemic did take a few online lectures of the deaf pursuing DEPwD. Those students wanted me to teach and I could do it online. Now I'm pursuing PhD, which has always been my dream. It relates to my MA, where I conducted a study on whether deaf individuals can learn English using Indian Sign Language. It was a good research. I learned a lot and it was very beneficial. However, I felt that I needed to make some additions to improve it. What I wanted to add was to determine the best method for deaf individuals to learn better. That is what my PhD is about. So far, I always did both work and studies simultaneously. Like I said earlier, 25 years back, I wasn't aware and didn't have the confidence. But 25 years later at 50, when I look back, managing work and studies simultaneously benefited me a lot. This is the story of my education. You said you were teaching at IGNOU, Delhi for a year. That means you left Mumbai and stayed in Delhi for a year, right? Right. When I was in IGNOU, I moved to Delhi. Before that, I had completed MA research from UK. The BAASLS course was set up in connect with the same. Around 30-40 deaf individuals enrolled for the course and I was given the job of teaching them. However, I was already working at an NGO in Mumbai since 5 years. I couldn't leave that. I had to somehow manage Delhi and Mumbai both. So I worked in Delhi for 15 days and in Mumbai for 15 days. For a year, every fortnight I travelled between the two cities. It was a tough time, but I did it as I had to teach. I wanted to give back and support deaf students learning. It's interesting. What about your parents, your wife, your daughter? How did you manage? You are right. I remember when I look back from 2007 after I quit the railway jobs and started teaching at an NGO, from that time onwards till 5 years, I travel extensively. Looking back, I feel for my family, especially my parents and wife who watched me travel for studies and work. Those days I had to travel, which I did. My wife and daughter, who was only 5 at the time and longed for her father's presence, missed me a lot. But they all supported me. I know it was difficult for them to let me be away. Heartwarming. From the outside, Sunil appears as a highly educated individual and an exceptional teacher who explains things proficiently. However, behind that, there's a person who sacrificed a lot. His wife, parents, and daughter allowed him to be away even during emergencies. In their hearts, they were happy, but they knew he's working for the betterment of the deaf community. From the outside, Sunil appears different, but inside, he has a heart full of sacrifice. Also, truly proud of his family. Thank you, truly. I must thank my family. What is your PhD about? The focus of my PhD is on deaf individuals learning English. Yes, many deaf individuals learn English. But what is the best way for them to learn? One that is impactful, helps them remember, sign, write, and communicate effectively. Just signing is not enough. My PhD research focuses on those few key learning skills that one needs to acquire. Does your research on self-learning target a specific age group? Actually, this is for teenagers between 15 to 18 years of age. It can also be used by adults over 20 to 25 years, whether working or in college, who want to improve their English. In my PhD, I have developed tools to support them in the self-learning process. You have shared impressive achievements, and I wish you success with your PhD. You are the perfect teacher, and we are fortunate for the accident that brought you here. I see many youth and adults in the deaf community struggling due to the poor quality of education. As a teacher, how do you intend to solve this issue? Looking back, there was no support for sign language in India. Oralism was widely practiced but failed. Now there's a change with the DEPwD Act, sign language is included. Deaf individuals were granted cultural rights, and the NEP 2020 recognizes sign language as their mother tongue. All of this show a positive change. But this is not enough. We want teachers to sign in class. Who should they be? The older generation is going, and now I want to encourage the deaf to become teachers. It's not compulsory. Not everyone needs to become a teacher. Only those who are interested in passing on the education to others. I want deaf teachers who can sign, though hearing teachers can also teach if they can learn sign language. Most important is signing, which will open the world of education and learning, as sign language will be the first language. Then I thought about the methods. A deaf teacher would sign, but as I mentioned about my PhD, a few additional skills can enhance the learning process. It must be applied here. No matter how skilled I am, I can't change the world alone. We need 100 teachers. My goal is to train those interested in teaching. They will teach others, and in 5 to 10 years, India will see significant improvement. Your PhD targets 12 to 15-year-olds. That's great. Kids below 12 years of age, especially from 0 to 3 years, their minds are highly receptive and they can grasp information clearly. Also, do you have plans for children between 3 to 12 years? Are you considering any changes or new ideas? Well, if you ask me, as a part of my PhD research, I have to have a well-defined target group. So right now, my target group is teens. Your question is absolutely clear. What about the kids between 0 to 12, with 3 to 5 and 7 being critical ages? It doesn't matter if they're deaf or hearing. Everyone should have the opportunity to learn, as their minds are highly soft. This is known as plasticity. During this time, opportunity must be given. Many deaf lose this in this critical period. It means people often sympathize when a family is deaf, but in reality is an opportunity that brings many benefits, as a lot of learning happens. But deaf kids born in hearing families often lose this critical time and opportunity. This is called language deprivation, right? Yes, language deprivation. So what I want to do is, nowadays I see early intervention centers being set up in several places. When the child is born deaf, the parent should immediately learn sign language. But there's very less encouragement for this. There needs to be a lot of encouragement, as it's important, but people don't understand. I urge the government to encourage this further. Although my research targets a different group, I agree, children aged 0 to 12 should have the opportunity to learn sign language. Giving sign language enables faster language acquisition. It should also be applied to education, which means the teacher must sign. All this is linked. You're absolutely correct. Kids below 12 are very important, but my research is focused on the other age group. Right, I understand. I found something interesting. Language deprivation. Now, therefore, watching this interview might wonder that if they are late identified, maybe at the age of 7, 10 or even 15, being language deprived, other deaf may reinforce the idea that they have a problem. What do you think? Can they reverse the impact, or will they live with it, or is it acceptable? Good question. Something, what has happened has happened. You can't change it. Time can't be reversed. If we follow the wrong way and view language deprivation as a lifelong problem, then yes, it's a loss. But if you focus on solutions for language deprivation, it can lead to improvement. Language deprivation has a huge impact, but with proper solutions, the impact can be reduced. Sign language enhances memory and learning, which in turn improves conceptual and visual development. Therefore, it should be utilized to reduce the significant impact of language deprivation. Without the solutions, language deprivation would have a negative impact. However, with the right solutions, it can lead to a positive impact. So it's your choice. So, the deaf community, instead of worrying, should be encouraged to use given solutions. But maybe there are a few deaf, you give presentations about language deprivations. I would like to inform you all, when you see presentations about language deprivation and late identification, etc., don't label others as lost due to language deprivation while claiming your life is saved. Irrespective of being language deprived or no, supporting each other is important. Deaf community is one and united, right? Definitely, that's important. What is your aim as the president of AIFD? Well, let me give a brief story of how I became AIFD president. I grew up locally in Mumbai. Mumbai has a deaf association called India Deaf Society, whose president passed away and I was made the acting president. He wanted to bring about good changes and he pushed my name for the AIFD elections. There, I was elected as vice president and now during the next elections got elected as president. The post wasn't important to me, but to bring impactful changes like you mentioned about educational reforms, federations and associations should be involved. After I joined, I'm trying to gradually bring about the changes. As a president, my role is to bring about education reforms, improve accessibility, and advocate for these changes. I'm working hard on these, but I can't do it alone. I want everyone to support and work as a team. Together, we can do it. I can't do it alone or provide it to everyone. I'm not God. Working together unitedly is important. Well, you are the president of AIFD and part of several other associations as well, such as vice president of ISLIA, consultant of ISLTA. You are also involved in RCI. What are your goals for these? I became AIFD president recently in 2022. With ISLIA, I have been involved right from the start in 2008. Though not as vice president, initially I was a part of the board. It is clear that there is no accessibility during my education. I was not given interpreters. I was also a certified ISL teacher who had completed the ISL level A, B and C. So I felt it was important to encourage interpreters and we were all together in this. I continue to encourage and contribute, eventually becoming the vice president twice. It's been over 15 years that I'm part of ISLIA. ISLIA started some 5 to 8 years back. I was involved in it and now there are a few new young deaf teachers in ISLTA who are managing it. They asked me to become an advisor to the board and I was happy to assist. If I want to bring about changes in society, I need to be part of associations. I can't be self-centered and that's the reason I am a part of various associations which will soon work independently. RCI has a sign language committee. They want experts who can advise them on curriculum development and other issues. I am a part of it. I have been asked by ISLRTC to do the verification of the vocabulary developed by various NGOs. That's how I'm involved in various activities. Okay. Yes, I am part of these, but my ultimate aim is to make an impact through my skills. That's all. How do you manage being in so many organizations? Most people stay in one and focus on it. How do you have time for all? How do you do it? Good question. If I lie, I can easily say I can do it all, but honestly, it's challenging to hold so many posts. Not at all fun and enjoyment. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed and procrastinate, but I'm thankful for the support and understanding of others in these organizations. I encourage them to handle it on their own. Relying on me too much would overwhelm me. Truly, it's difficult to manage, but I have the support of all the teams. It's really about providing guidance and training, which I enjoy as a teacher, to empower them to perform better. I hope that by the time you reach 60 or 70, you will witness these organizations thriving without your guidance. I hope so too. I feel optimistic as times have changed since the 1980s and 2000s. The deaf community in the 2020s is much better empowered. Due to the internet, we are able to see and understand the world better. Understanding of human rights and deaf culture has improved significantly compared to the past. I'm sure in the next 5 to 10 years, life would be much better. What you have said is interesting, but I'd like to go back and ask about your family and relatives who commented on you before. How do they feel now looking at you? Right. Now my relatives praise me and say, "Wow, you are a big man." Some even jokingly call me Modi. Of course, there's no real comparison, but I know they're just teasing. It's clear though that their views have changed. They thought deaf can't, but now they see deaf can. My parents are really happy as they can see the changes in the deaf community and are positive about it. Earlier, my father also believed the deaf couldn't, but now with the ISH news and with MBM news, my parents see the accessibility and have understood that there have been positive changes within the deaf community. People have a positive view of me and see me as a big man, but I'm no big man. It's a good change. Thanks to you, the small things that you taught or did at Ashara spread and led to a big change. Thank you. But it was a seed. I don't really know, but sometimes it's direct and sometimes indirect, maybe. When I taught you, it was direct teaching, and I can see the progress that you have made. But someone whom I have not taught has progressed just by observing me. This is an indirect impact, and there are many such people. In a way, it's good because the deaf community is progressing, and for that, we must look up to each other and support. Your upbringing and life seemed easy. Learning well, supported by a deaf family, with your parents enrolling you in school and your brother in a hostel in Chennai. In contrast, deaf individuals born to hearing parents face many more barriers. Your life is much more smoother, right? What you think and the reality are not the same. If you ask me about my life, it's not easy. Oh, tell me. Life wasn't easy. Life wasn't easy. Yes, having deaf parents and deaf siblings made communication better. But there were a lot of other issues, psychological, emotional, and others. Within the four walls of our house, with a family, communication was amazing. However, outside the house and school, relatives, extended family, and society in general, there were mental and emotional difficulties. My life was never as smooth as you said. I also had a lot of financial difficulties, as my mother was a housewife and my father worked in a factory that shut down, and the matter went to court. He was forced to stay home and became very ill. I was 16, had just finished school and started college. When I failed class 11, everyone advised me to quit studying and take up labor or do some other job. Oh, I thank my parents for supporting me, especially my mother who delivered tiffins. It meant I had to help her with food preparation and deliver tiffins to some elderly families on my way to college. I did this for 4 years. 4 years. Not only me. Everyone faces financial problems, but the fact is my life was not smooth. For 4 years, I delivered tiffins, helped my mother to stitch blouses and cook. I explained how everything had to be done. So I had a difficult life, not at all easy. But yes, if you give up, everything will be lost. So you must keep working hard. I thank my family who encouraged me to keep doing. I believed that this was the foundation to my PhD. At the time, I never imagined I would do a PhD. Continuously trying is important. Wow, amazing. Don't look only from the outside. You have seen an iceberg where only a small portion is visible on the surface while the majority is submerged. These are the sufferings, barriers, and problems. In Sunil's case, everyone sees him doing his PhD, is partially deaf, speaks well. But look deeper. He helped his mother stitch blouses, tried selling them, delivered tiffins, and dealt with his father's stress after the factory closed down. He worked hard and is now doing his PhD. Behind his successes is hard work, positivity, and overcoming challenges. You too can be like him. Just remember, don't give up. Continue your path. You're right, I agree. In India, I have seen many people learning and changing. Many deaf learn about leadership. There are many who give talks about leadership skills. Several NGOs conduct programs on Sundays where deaf learn about leadership. I have been hearing about these leadership trainings for about 10 to 15 years now. Then the deaf began calling themselves leaders, posting videos on WhatsApp, questioning and discussing various topics. But being a leader is fine. But despite these, what about the strength and development of the deaf community? Many hearing communities can grow through their leaders, but it's different for the deaf. Why is it that? Well, you're right. Now, being a leader has become a trend. They boast about being leaders, claiming they have learned about human rights, discussing issues like oppression, autism, and more. Knowledge is important, but the term leader is incorrectly used. Actually, a leader means the one who is learned, more patient, and knowledgeable. Now, what I see among deaf leaders is that they focus more on questioning and speaking against each other. In reality, there's no learning. A leader should first learn, empathize, suggest solutions, and then guide everyone forward together. Now it's just about questioning and criticizing and not getting answers, boasting about being knowledgeable leaders. This is the current situation. There should be training on what true leadership means. Leadership is actually a servant. If you look at Prime Minister Modi, he doesn't call himself the Prime Minister. But Pradhan Sevak, which is a Hindi word that means chief servant. That is the real concept of the word leader. I like that. A real leader is a chief servant. These leaders think the opposite and consider themselves superior like kings. There's a huge misunderstanding, and that is why training in leadership skills is needed. Over time, we must encourage. Perfect. Now, what message would you like to give our deaf audience watching this? Well, what I would like to tell you is deaf can do. Don't ever think it's difficult as you're deaf. First introspect, see and identify your skills, and through trial and error, you will discover the one that you excel in. Then following the same like me. I didn't want to be a teacher, but I had the aptitude for teaching and chose to be a teacher. Don't become a teacher because someone else is a teacher. Maybe you are better at another skill. So introspect first, then try. Get trained for it and see how you will excel. Each one is special. You need to follow your heart. Well, that's it. I'm amazed. Being a teacher, you teach from books, through visuals, give explanations, and the students will progress. That's the job of a teacher, right? No. Today I want to clarify that if I am teaching students, my knowledge should be greater than theirs. While teaching, students' knowledge grows and may even surpass mine. It means that students have gained new knowledge, even more than the teacher. A teacher who learns from the student is a true teacher. My goal is to give students the opportunity to learn more. Knowledge alone isn't enough. Teachers keep learning, but the key is ensuring the kids learn more. I never thought about this way. I always believe the teacher knows more than the student. A successful teacher is one whose students surpass them in knowledge. I believe that. Truly, asking you and knowing about your life was inspiring. I hope the deaf look up to you and follow your footsteps. Thank you so much for taking the time for the role model interview. This is not the end of the role model interviews. We will be back with more. Keep watching.